you doing, guys? This is Eric from secretoftheinternet.com and rulethewasteland.com. I made a video recently talking about how it's a good idea to carry a little cash to be have some level of basic preparedness in day-to-day life. But I also mentioned that I don't really use almost any cash in my daily purchases unless I have to. And for the simple reason that I have a reward credit card program that I use, or that I've developed myself, just like a system of rewards cards that I use for almost every purchase, because it gives me cash back from some of the biggest banks in the world. I get to take money out of their pocket. We had some comments on that video where people were debating whether or not that strategy actually works in the long run, or if you end up actually costing yourself in other ways. And I wanted to address some of those issues today, and then either at the end of this video or in a later video tell you exactly what my rewards strategy is, depending on how long this takes. But the first one was studies that have shown that when you spend with cash, you spend less. You actually end up spending 20% more or something like that, average, when you spend with a card, because you don't feel the sting of the purchase as you do when you're handing over cash. And I have heard these studies before, but here's my thoughts on the matter. I've heard it from Dave Ramsey and others. My first thought, and I haven't been able to spend the time to go look up the exact studies that were referenced because I was never given their name, but I've been hearing these for a long time, which leads me to believe that these studies were done a while ago, potentially decades ago, like 20 years ago, when it wasn't nearly as ubiquitous for people to be spending with a card. People like myself, and especially certainly people that are younger, have grown up almost exclusively using cards and digital transactions for a lot of their lives, from college and beyond. So it's really not that unusual to be spending with card. And I actually, since I track, this is just something to do with me, it's probably not the norm for most people in my generation or any generation, is I track every penny in and out on spreadsheets religiously. And it's just what I just like to do it. It helps me with my business stuff, my online income, and it's just, I like to know what I'm spending money on. It helps me save money and all that stuff. So there's no way for me to avoid the sting of spending and saying, ouch, I spent money on this, except if I pay cash. Because to me, cash is almost like off the books, and it's easy to miss out going onto the spreadsheet. But when I swipe a card, boom, then it shows up in that purchase detailed exactly what I spent it on, and I have to say, oh, I got a drink there, oh, I got a McDonald's, and then I have to enter it in restaurants, alcohol, and see those numbers go up. So for me, I'm actually less likely to spend if it's on a card than if it's on cash. Because for me, if I pull up my wallet, I'm like, oh, there's a 20 on there that I didn't know about, bam, throw it at the bartender, it's gone, but then you don't even remember, it doesn't show up in the spreadsheet. I'm much more likely to spend cash. I don't have that like sting of spending cash, because most of my transactions are digital, and that's how I get slapped in the face with it later, is when it shows up on the purchase history. Another thing is, many of my purchases, I don't do a lot of just shopping and things like that to where my spending would be able to be inflated, if you know what I mean. Like if I go to the gas pump and I'm getting gas from my car, I'm filling up my car either way. Whether I'm spending cash, running inside to pay with cash, or paying with a card, I'm just gonna fill it up. It's not gonna, I'm like, oh, I've got cash, I can drive a few extra miles today. I drive where I'm gonna drive, and then I pay for the gas. And I might as well be getting 5% cash back on that one, like I do with this card right here, 5% on gas. So it doesn't matter. Obviously, I'm not gonna be driving more if I pay with a card than if I pay with cash. Again, today a lot of things are bought online as well. So there's actually no way to pay cash for these things. So if I'm buying something on Amazon that you just aren't going to be able to get otherwise, and certainly maybe you're getting it there because it's cheaper, there's just no alternative for paying cash. So I put it on a card, and you can get all 5% on Amazon as well with this one, or 3% on Amazon if you can't get that one with this card. So obviously it's great to use cards for that, because you're going to be using a card anyway. If this may be your debit card, I'm not the type of person who's going to spend more if I'm using a card. If you are, and it certainly is possible, you just need to identify that and realize that. And just like if you're the type of person who's going to overdo it with anything else, with gambling or liquor, you have to stay away from the situations that are going to tempt you to do these things. So obviously using rewards credit cards strategy like I do is not for people who can't control their spending, who don't track their spending, who are going to forget about it or get carried away. You absolutely just should stay away from credit in that situation completely. But that doesn't apply to everyone, and for a lot of us that would be leaving money on the table. So the other point I would like to address is that the comments were saying that that's playing their game, because the credit card companies know that you're going to spend more, and so that's why they can do that. And that doesn't really make sense, because if I go in to the grocery store and spend 20% more than I would have for some reason just because I'm using a card, the credit card company doesn't get that money, the grocery store does. So that doesn't help the credit card company with their program. The credit card company only gets their money if I don't pay off the balance every month, which I do regardless of if I'm, you know, theoretically spending 20% more than I would have with cash or not, which I would, you know, wager that I'm not to begin with. In fact, I'm wagering the exact opposite, that I personally would spend less with card. But the point stands that that doesn't help. Spending more on a card doesn't help the credit card company. It only matters to them whether you're paying it off every month or not. And to them, it doesn't matter what the amount is compared to your normal spending. Even if you spend less than you do on a normal month, if you're not paying it off, they still get their money. So the way you keep the credit card companies from getting money is by not carrying a balance. So I really have, I'm going to get into my strategy later in a separate video where I show you the exact cards, but for now I just wanted to address any possible issues. So that's what you need to do, is just track your spending. That's the best way, whether you're using cash or not, to make sure you're not spending too much. Don't carry a balance, and then for the most part you won't have any trouble. But do some experiments. If you really think that you may have an issue with that, do a month where you're spending only cash and compare that to a month where you're doing only card, and see how it works. But like I said, I don't think all cash is feasible for most people, simply because some purchases, like online, like I even put my cell phone bill and car insurance goes onto my reward credit card. So I mean, I could mail them a check, but I'm not going to be paying more for car insurance or paying more for cell phone just because I'm putting it on my card instead of on a check. So I might as well get the 1.5% cash back that I'm getting on that for bills that I'm already going to be paying anyway. So that's my thoughts on the matter. Upcoming video will tell you exactly what cards I use and how, and I'll give you the opportunity to sign up for a few of them with some affiliate bonuses if you guys are interested. That will help us both out. But as always, like I said, don't carry a balance, and know yourself when it comes to your spending habit. Those are the best ways to avoid giving money to the banks, and instead you end up taking it from them. So stay tuned. I'll talk to you guys later. Check out rulthewasteland.com, secretoftheinternet.com.